Hello and welcome to my Christian fiction podcast, where I share stories with you. Right now, you're listening to Buried Secrets, written and read by Eunice Wilkie. Chapter 2. August 2022, Mysteries from the Wild podcast. Buried Secrets series, Episode 3. Hello again, and a warm welcome to Mysteries from the Wild. I'm your host and partner in solving crime, Melanie Harris, and as you know, we're already diving deeper into our latest mystery. First, some exciting news. We now have a name for this series. Thank you, Sarah, for your winning suggestion. I can officially announce that we are on podcast number 3 of the Buried Secrets series. Let's just hope the secrets aren't buried too deep, or we'll never uncover them. Thank you for all your other great title suggestions. Steve, you'll be pleased to know that Bad Blood was a close second, but as you pointed out, even if I don't use it for this series, you can use it for your gothic horror novel. Keep us updated on that. In our first episode, we met Detective Inspector John Prentice, whom I have the privilege, or challenge, of shadowing, assisting, mind-reading, and trying very hard not to annoy. You'll get to know him more as this series progresses. To answer your question, Lisa, I think it was Lisa. Yes, he's currently single, but I'm not exactly in his confidences. In fact, I might be the last person he'd confide in, since he fears I'd include personal details about him in the podcast, perhaps even making him appear human. But despite his best efforts, I think you'll soon see that he is. In our second episode, we visited the notorious Koyasdara cottage and retrieved a mysterious box from there. By the way, someone asked, sorry, I don't remember who, whether the cottage is haunted. I have no idea, and honestly, I'm not sure what difference it would make, to us or our case, if it is. But if I'm missing something, let me know. Now, we're about to open the mysterious metal box which bears the name Terry Vass, the name of a man who was killed under suspicious circumstances after losing a case containing £1 million, which most likely belonged to a crime syndicate. But before we open the box and see what's inside, let me set the scene. We're in a large office space, divided into individual workstations by some tired-looking grey dividers. Standing up, I can easily see over them, so they must be about 5 feet high. Because of this, you can usually only see heads and shoulders darting around or suddenly popping into view, which gives the place a slightly disembodied feel. If I worked here, I think I'd wear slippers to work. After all, who's going to see my feet? But I suspect that D.I. John Prentice would still wear his country gentleman-style leather brogues, even if no one else was around to see them. Each cubicle contains a desk, a computer, a chair on rollers, a filing cabinet, and stacks of paperwork. Clearly, this police department hasn't gone even a page or two closer to being paperless. As a detective inspector, John has a larger cubicle in the corner of the room. His in-tray is full, but neatly organized, and the entire space carries an air of order and efficiency. His office is big enough to accommodate the three of us currently gathered around his desk, with a little room to spare. The steak pie I bought John earlier from the shop in Kinbaki sits abandoned on his desk. I now know it's not to his taste, but I suspect the real reason he's forgotten about it is that he's entirely focused on the metal box we collected from Koyas Dara. Someone from the police lab, from a separate building nearby, must have owed John a favour. Or maybe, I flatter myself, they just came to see the chief superintendent's assistant turned podcaster. Much to John's chagrin, we've become something of a novelty. But I'm sure the interest will wear off soon. Whatever the reason, a police technician has arrived very quickly with lockpicks. Now they're carefully working at the small lock on the box. John watches closely. It's clear he's intrigued by whatever might be hidden inside. "What do you think the box contains?" I ask. John raises an eyebrow at the question. "I haven't the faintest idea." His tone discourages further inquiry, but I'm not so easily put off. "If you had to guess," I persist. John shakes his head. He refuses to indulge in speculation. "I'm hopeless at guessing games and hype, if that's what you're after," he says curtly. I don't give up. "Let me rephrase. If you could choose, what would you hope it contains? What unanswered question about Terry Vass would you most like answered?" To my surprise, John responds, "I'd like it to contain a confession to Tanya Fletcher's murder." He assumes I won't know who she is. He doesn't realise I've already gone through every available detail about the missing £1 million, including his own case notes. The woman who supposedly died from a 1 in a million stroke and COVID combination with Terry Vass's fingerprints all over her house, I comment. John gives me another raised eyebrow look. I'm enjoying surprising him. He catches my smugness and, unexpectedly, smiles. "I do seem to underestimate you," he concedes. I'm surprised by his honesty. For a brief moment there's even a feeling of camaraderie. "You never believed it was a natural death," I press. I had gleaned as much from his notes. John shakes his head. "What are the odds of that? Terry Vass was involved, £1 million had gone missing, and a criminal gang was closing in." At last he's speaking frankly. I seize the moment. What other questions remained after the money case was closed? John leans back slightly. "A couple of things still bother me." I nod, waiting. First, where the rest of the missing money went. About £100,000 was never accounted for. I resist the urge to interject that I already knew that detail. "And second," he continues, "Terry Vass's death." "You mean who exactly was responsible for his murder?" I haven't read that particular file, but I do know that his suspicious death is just a euphemism for murder, likely murder at the hands of an OCG, organised crime group, for those listeners who don't know. John nods. I have a feeling the perpetrator has local ties, maybe even lives here. He trails off as there's a satisfying click and the metal box is unlocked. We lean in, peering into the box. Inside, there's only a single folded piece of paper. John pulls on gloves, more out of habit than necessity. By default, he treats everything as potential evidence. Carefully, he unfolds the note and lays it flat on the desk. My first reaction is disappointment. The writing is childlike, the message short, and a simple, nonsensical diagram takes up a portion of the page. The whole thing is scrawled in faded pencil, making it difficult to decipher. John, however, doesn't show any emotion. He's completely focused. I suspect he's already forgotten about the police technician who stuck around out of curiosity and is now peering over his shoulder. I squint at the paper, unable to make out the words. Then John reaches into his drawer and pulls out, of all things, a magnifying glass, for all the world as if he really is Sherlock Holmes. I strongly doubt any other officer in the building has such an item casually lying in their desk. "What does it say?" I ask. John frowns, adjusting the lens. "It says there's been a murder." His tone is doubtful. Any murder reported on this slip of paper must be long in the past, if it's even real. "What's the date on it?" I point to a faded smudge in the top right corner. John leans in. "I think the year is—" He studies it closely. 1977? I glance at the paper again. Who was killed? John taps a word with his gloved finger. This says brother. I frown. Terry Vass's brother? Did he even have a brother? John straightens up, his gaze drifting beyond the grey partitions. He's thinking. I know that Hector Vass, the eldest in the family, died in a car accident in Strathavie in 2017. He was the driver and the only occupant. The police ruled it an accident. His thoughtful expression darkens. But that obviously isn't what this note is referring to. He looks back at me. Since you've offered to help with research. He lets the suggestion hang in the air. Right, I'll get onto it. Anything else? John exhales. It's probably a red herring and a waste of your time. Maybe Terry, in a fit of childish anger, accused... He squints at the note. 5 men? He's accusing 5 men of murder. His skepticism is obvious. But for some reason, I say slowly, Terry Vass chose to keep this box safely hidden. And stashed it away where it would never be found, like a child playing a game, John counters. Would someone making a serious allegation do that? He has a point, but I'm intrigued, and John senses it. But if you want to follow it up, be my guest. It'll save me some legwork. Check old newspapers, local records. Talk to people with local knowledge. Jack or his father, Colonel Urquhart. Elspeth at Kimbaki shop, if you dare, but fact-check anything she says. Edith Seagrave, she grew up in Strathavie and was peers with Terry's parents. Distantly related, I think. She might know something. He gives clear, succinct instructions. I almost feel like saluting and saying, "Yes, sir," but doubt he'd find it amusing. Besides, I'm so glad he's trusted me with a task, albeit something he considers a dead end, that I don't want to spoil the moment. I summarise the case so far. So, in short, Terry Vass accuses 5 men of killing his brother in 1977, and he claims this map shows where the body was buried. I hear the scepticism in my own voice. John nods, and if I'm reading this right, Terry also wrote that if he were ever murdered, these same 5 people were responsible. I stare at the paper. He thought they might kill him too. Then another thought occurs to me. It would be strange if the box did, after all, contain a murderer's identity, not Tanya Fletcher's, but Terry Vass's. John's expression remains unreadable, but I sense his lingering doubt. He clearly doesn't believe this note holds any real answers, and he's probably right. This feels like a dead end. But as I'm already learning, John Prentice leaves no stone unturned. Once the note has been properly examined and the poor spelling corrected, it reads, "I saw a murder. They killed my brother. 5 men did it. I think he deserved it. If I die, they killed me too. I'll tell them I wrote it down for the police. This is my security. The map shows where he's buried. Signed, Terry Vass." Terry would have been 8 years old when he wrote this. Whatever he became in later life, I pity him. And that, dear listeners, is all we have to launch our investigation. A 1977 note scribbled by an 8-year-old boy. On the 2 days a week I work with John, in exchange for podcast material, I begin digging into Strathavie in the 1970s. There are stories everywhere, stories of prejudice, love, and hate, and among them I find a key piece of the puzzle. Terry Vass had an older half-brother who, wait for it, disappeared in 1977. His name was James Martin, and if you want to know what happens next, tune into the next episode when a body is discovered. Take care and see you next time as we continue unravelling this mystery from the wild.